Are you looking to improve your sales without resorting to pushy tactics? Welcome to Sales Made Easy, the podcast that helps you to achieve better sales results and gain long-lasting clients through relational selling. Let's get right into it. We are live, ladies and gentlemen, with Derek Strokon, who is the author of a couple of books, The Success Bible and Stop Stalling, Start Selling.
Yeah.
So I look forward to talking a little bit about that, Derek, and
Absolutely.
all the other cool stuff that you're doing in business and getting people to find their passion and purpose in business. So welcome to the Sales Made Easy, the Selling with Dignity live podcast. What's the good word?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Harry. I'm excited that it took us a while to put this date together. So it's we're finally here and I'm excited to chat.
Yay!
Yeah.
So a quick shout out to Katie Jordan, who connected us, and we had a great conversation. And from there, it's like this guy is like so aligned, or I'm not sure who's aligned with who,
Right.
but we're aligned with each other. And I'm just already thrilled about this conversation. So one of the things that I just want to get right into this thing is you're working with people in the financial industry.
Yeah.
And I come across these quite a bit. If you're out networking at all in the community, there's about 100 for every one person who is
Right. Yeah.
in the financial industry, and they all want to do let me just do a free assessment of what you're doing today. No harm, no foul. I'll show you where the money's not working. It's like I've heard this so many times.
The technique, the techniques that's been around for 45 years.
Yeah, exactly. So is there a refresh out there? Is there something that people can be doing today that's different? Talk to me.
Yeah, I think where sales is going and where it needs to come back to and how it originated was service and impact and giving. If you think back to, the first business, it was about, I have a product or a widget that can help somebody else do something better. I have a wheel and the wheel is going to make the cart go and it's going to go faster, but it's going to help somebody else accomplish something. And then we got into this, industrial revolution, and then we moved into the great 80s where everybody was just trying to make a buck off doing anything. And we got caught up in this, what I refer to as hero culture. And the hero culture is the space where we live, where we're buying things we can't afford with money we don't have to impress people who don't care. But it has become so indoctrinated in our society. I attribute it to George Lucas and the hero's journey, that if you look at, that was the first film that was built around Joseph Campbell's hero's journey format. Was regular guy, faces a crisis, falls and hits rock bottom, goes through this painful evolution on the, road to greatness, becomes celebrated as the hero, and then goes back to their community to share all the things that they learned. And, this history goes back to the Greek tragedies. However, the advent of Star Wars and how George Lucas wrote this film actually changed the way that our society works and the society thinks. And we moved into this world where in order to be great, you had to have the great story behind you. But if you look at, one of the greatest regrets of the dying is, I wish I would have lived my life being more true to myself. And if you look at the sales environment, this is where we are fortunately evolving back to. I think, COVID has had a few silver linings. One being us being able to be, thousands of miles apart and being able to connect on a morning and have a great chat. Right. That has become normalized, but this advent of purposeful business has switched. So let me show you why I'm the best, why my portfolio is better than what you currently have. Let me make you feel dumb about what you've done before with investing so that you feel guilty that you should switch your investments over to my platform. And then it's lather, rinse, repeat. And we go on this same platform, the same trajectory of comparison. And, I spent 16 years corporately in the financial services business, but Left almost 3 years ago, 3 years ago, almost to the day that I had my final conversation with HR, where I realized it was time for me to move on. And what we've done in the financial services business, and it expands across every piece of sales culture, is getting back to the purpose and the reason why we're in business, right? You open a shop. My wife's great grandfather established a little town in northern British Columbia called Quesnel. Um, Quesnel was a little mining town. He was a Chinese immigrant. He came in, he opened the first department store. The reason he opened the department store was to serve the community, not to make margin and profit for himself. That was secondary. And it leapfrogged to this, in this hero culture world, to be the primary purpose of business was profit.
Yeah.
But I feel that we're moving back. So this impact and philanthropy and giving it's not the new way, it's the rebirth of the way that business should be done.
I love it. I was just having a conversation with someone today, and we were talking about housing here in Central Florida.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible for someone who is starting out in their 20s to get a house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you have to have $200,000 earners to be able to afford a mortgage.
Yeah.
And this person's business, I mean, he's a founder of a nonprofit. He says he goes around to different community leaders, and some will say, we're not about that type of housing in our community, right? We want to be just this really ritzy type thing.
Right.
And it's like, what about the kids of these people? Right. So it's so short-sighted. And it's like I mean, I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek's.
Yeah.
Like, we're having purpose. I know you're about this. And sometimes in a business, you don't get in business just to hire employees.
Correct.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But it's not like you need to let go of someone who is 80% of plan, because you have to get everyone at 100% of plan, and you don't see the person.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading, no offense to those who love Jack Welch, but I read Winning by Jack Welch years ago, and I kept doing this, get rid of the bottom 20%.
Yeah.
But it's like this heartless thing. And in sales, you get paid on performance. I understand all of that. Yeah. But there's ways to develop people that,
absolutely,
right, where people they take the shortcut, which is, churn and burn, get through people till I find. And so there's a lot of disconnect there that I think maybe people might have had the good intentions. Maybe Jack Welch's intentions were all great, but sometimes it's our own interpretation, and we say we want to hit our numbers. We want to do what's best for the families here and so forth. But you got to be a person, a human throughout all of this. And I think that's something that you bring. Again, I love seeing it, but it's not everywhere for sure.
Yeah. And, and it's scary. It's scary to step out of this hero culture world where we're, trying to impress the people who don't care. We've been ingrained, this has been ingrained for generations.
Exactly.
But I think, if you look at the Jack Welch scenario to go at GE, what were the considerations to say, what was my role in this? And I think, this has been one of my biggest differentiators in leading teams has been to go, well, why is my team at 80% a plan? What was my role? What did I have to do with it? How do I become the accountable party? Because it's not this disposable culture that we've been utilizing. It's about going, when you look at what management used to be, and this whole idea, and I talk about this actually in Stop Stalling, Start Selling, about, never forget the factory floor. And the manager's purpose originally was to take all of the information from the team, bring it up to the upper leadership to say, here's all the things that are happening on the factory floor. This is what we need to change in order to do it. But yet, where do we go chop when it's time to, when it's time to get the dollars in line, is you cut out your sales team.
Yeah.
You're like, but that's the heart, that's the engine, right? One of my favorite quotes is that culture is the immune system of the organization.
Mm.
So when you're healthy and profits are good and things are going well, culture plays less and less of a role. But when we're challenged, when the economic times, when we look at inflation in the US and in Canada over the last year and a half, what has happened to mortgage rates, what's happened to housing prices, this has been the impact of going, this is where culture starts to matter. And culture, we can draw back to go, what is the purpose
Yeah.
behind being in business?
Yeah. It's really good. It's interesting what you said. I mean, when I'm telling you what my beliefs are, I know I just alienated a bunch of people.
Right.
Right. I mean, this is the thing is like people are so out of tune. Some are so out of
Yeah.
tune with this that it's like, well, Harry's not my guy. I am all about the numbers, 100% numbers. I don't care about people. And if
Yeah.
that's the way it is in your sales organization, right, or with your people in general, you're going to have generally quite a bit of turnover.
Right. And
Those
but
who,
your
and
numbers,
it's not everyone's fault, but your own.
right.
When you have this turnover, it's not people today that's the
No.
problem.
No, and it's, the numbers are merely the lagging metric. The numbers are the indicator of how well did you do doing all of the other things.
Mm,
And traditional sales culture looks at numbers as the leading metric,
right. Yeah.
right? If you have a hockey team or a baseball or a football team that lost 3 games in a row, well, they fire the coach.
Yeah.
Well, the coach was building the team,
Yeah.
right? This is a culture problem. This is not a coaching problem. Yet
Yeah.
that's the person who goes and gets axed.
Yeah.
But if we understand that numbers are merely the lagging metric that show or a representation of the overall health of your organization, then it changes the way we think about who are the people and what are the things that we need to change.
Yeah. It's good. You're bringing up my Boston Bruins.
Right.
Same exact thing. They're like 3 weeks into the season, they fire the coach, or maybe
Right.
maybe a month or 2 months. Still
Yeah.
ridiculous, right? A whole bunch of new players. But this is, I think, is very typical, right? Small business owners, they want to hire salespeople. They think that they hire the salesperson, that the salesperson is going to get results immediately.
Yeah.
They don't even understand that there is a sales cycle. Some of them,
Yeah.
they think that you come on board, you must be bringing prospects that are ready to buy, which is not the case usually.
Hmm.
And after 2 or 3 months, they're like, I've had this person for 90 days, we've got no sales. It's like, what did they learn about your company, your culture? Are they even, are they talking to people that are now recognized they have a problem? I mean,
Hmm.
prospecting is not, let me just find the buyers today that are in the market.
Right.
If it was, it'd be really easy, but it's not how that works. People are not
Yeah.
typically letting a sign on their door that says, we're in the market for what you sell today.
Right.
And then we find those people, then it's like they have to eventually make decisions and it's not automatically us. So the fact that you're hiring a salesperson does not mean automatically that you've got $1 million a year additional revenue because you're
Right.
spending, $50,000 to $100,000 on someone's salary. It just doesn't work that way. But people don't necessarily understand that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So what I want to chat about you is now your approach there, this philanthropreneur, if I can say
Yeah.
that word,
Absolutely.
right? Did I hit
Yeah.
it?
Absolutely.
All right. So talk to me. Where did this philanthropreneur business come from, and what does
Yeah,
it mean?
so I've got to give a huge shout out to a great business contact of mine. His name's Randy Molland, and Randy is the one who named this or named me the philanthropreneur. And it was from Randy's influence about community and impact and giving, but understanding that the purpose of business is to support others and to support the community. And as a byproduct of doing that, you will end up supporting yourself,
Mm,
right? If you go, I think it was Confucius who said, if you chase the money, you'll never catch it. But if you let it catch you, it'll get you every time.
nice.
So when we think about purpose and we think about impact and giving and community as the primary purpose for being in business, that is what creates, right? The cliche of people will do business with people who they know, like, and trust. biggest cliche in sales,
That
but
is.
but it's true. And to go the relationship, right? The relationship is what drives revenue. So what we're doing in with Sacred Line Consulting in the consulting practice is helping financial advisors convert their practice from profit first or from product first to impact and philanthropy and giving first.
Mm.
So when I go out and talk to you and to go, when you take however many your 100-to-1 ratio of financial service provider friends, right? Ned from, what was that, from Groundhog Day. The number of individuals that you meet who are thinking that way and go, let me show you my portfolio because of this and because of that and because I'm the best, and right. If you can answer your value proposition with who cares or so what, or I should hope so, you don't have a value proposition. When you go, well, I'm the best financial advisor and gonna get you the best results. Well, I should hope so. It's not a value proposition. So but if I change that conversation, I go, Harry, growing up, one of the things that really helped me have structure was having access to, organized sports and being able to play hockey as a kid. And it was getting up at 4:30 in the morning and driving to the rink and going there with dad and having a coach and having that structure. I learned, as speaking with somebody yesterday, and they said, the majority of the business lessons that they learned from sport. And I realized that not every child has access to sport. So what I do in my business is we take 25% of top end revenue and we donate it directly to our community fund. And our community fund, realizing that not every child has access to sport, that the community fund is what we utilize to help give sport to other individuals. We just actually this morning sent 200 baseballs to Uganda through a program called Baseball Face Cares. They're based in Texas, incredible organization with Sammy Torres, former MLB player, and his son, who are running this a not-for-profit. But we sent 200 baseballs with affirmations written on them to children in Uganda. When you tie into impact and purpose, so when I talked about hockey and structure, and I take a percentage of my business revenue, it goes to the community fund so we can help other kids. If you'd like to help me help more kids, I would love to sit down and do a portfolio review with you. Right?
Yeah.
And obviously I'm going to get you the best return. I'm going to show you our portfolio construction. You can, cut me apart on all of that, but none of what traditional sales is utilizing is a value proposition, because you can answer it with so what, who cares, or I should hope so.
Yeah, so true. Well, the fact that we're number one, you're saying, does not really matter anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Because that's about me.
Exactly.
What does that have to do with you as a client?
Right. It does not connect with me.
Right.
Right. So if you're telling a story and you're saying we're the oldest, we're the largest, we're number one, we have the best results, I have tuned out after the second week.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing about that's going to help me.
Yeah.
And so the story now, but notice the story, like how engaged I become, or how engaged your audience becomes when you start talking about baseballs and kids.
Right.
Or whatever, right? It's Barbie doll, I don't know, whatever, stereotype.
Sure. And it has to be what you care about.
Yeah.
Because this is not a point of leverage to be utilized for profit. This is a realignment of purpose.
Yeah.
And to go, right?
So you can't fake this? Is that what you're saying?
Sorry?
I shouldn't fake it?
Yeah. Right? No. Right? Like, if you love kids and baseball, then go help out with kids and baseball.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have one of my clients, unfortunately, his brother took his life this summer, took his own life. His community fund is all about mental health and helping men reach out, because as men, we typically don't share the feelings. We keep it bottled up inside. Again, this draws back to hero culture and how everything's been ingrained inside society to shut up and just go for it. My father's faced some significant depression. He's been bedridden or in bed a majority of the time for 11 years because he is a victim of living this life where the expectation was just to shut up and not talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when
Well,
you
I
go,
don't need to shrink,
right,
right? You
yeah,
say things like that where it's like not manly.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, but we all need a shrink.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, why wouldn't we want to talk with somebody who's been dealing with other people's dealing with the same problems that they might be able to shed a little insight on
Right.
yours?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, but I was part of that generation too, where
Right.
these people were, I don't need to shrink, right? There's negative connotations for any of that. And now it's like, well, now we wonder why mental health is such a challenge,
Right.
right? Because we have shoved it away and said it doesn't matter because you're weak if you have anything wrong with you mentally or emotionally, you're
Yeah.
weak, right? That's kind of the way a generation, I think, has kind of looked at that. And now it's like when I hear of this happening and there's answers to this, and if you have an open mind, you can say, well, my body gets sick,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes I have a pain in my shoulder, that's accepted.
Yeah.
But if there's something going wrong with my mind or my emotions, that's not accepted. Where does that come from?
Yeah.
And so, where were you going with that? Because I just got off on a crazy tangent.
No, that's okay.
Apologize. Yeah.
On that topic, brilliant. Another co-TEDx speaker friend of mine, Mike Cameron, did a great TEDx talk called Redefining Badass.
Mm,
So we can throw that in the comments
yeah.
below when this goes out. But you know, you think about for my client who is now utilizing men's mental health as his mission, it's not a point of leverage for him. This
Yeah.
becomes his purpose. And when he speaks to prospects, he explains the passion behind his purpose.
Yeah.
And, people can see the bullshit coming a mile away. Yet, if you look at traditional sales training, it still goes back to there's a quote by Grant Cardone, and this is before he was the huge guru, and I'm not a massive fan of his approach.
Yeah.
But he had went back when he was selling cars in his sales training. We used to have these CDs that we could listen to when I was selling cars, and it was Grant Cardone, and he said, if the client thinks they're getting a good deal, then they're getting a good deal. And this grotesque, disgusting mentality of, I was one of the worst car salesmen ever because I kept telling people they don't need one. And I'm like, your car is fine. It's 3 years old. It's just been through the greatest depreciation ever. You don't need leather because leather's terrible. Cloth is a far superior product inside a vehicle because it doesn't burn in the summertime and it doesn't freeze in the wintertime. Yet we charge more for leather because there's this culturally assimilated concept that leather's better. And you don't need a sunroof because you don't drive like this. And right? Um, just buy a regular car. And I was terrible at selling cars, but that wasn't what produced the profits. I was a terrible car salesman,
Mm,
but I was a great insurance salesman because of the impact that that product has.
hmm.
Right. I
Yeah.
was, excelled in that field because when you go, it's on the life insurance side, delivering a check to a family when they need the money the
Right.
most.
Yeah.
But when we tie that in with purpose and with impact and with dignity and integrity and authenticity, this is when we have it's not just inspiring the clients to take action, but inspiring the advisor to take action as well, because they get more excited, right? Randy Mullen, who I'd mentioned earlier, has a brilliant quote, and he says, if you want to be the happiest $1 million income earner in the world, is build a business that generates you $2 million a year and give away half.
Oh, yeah. That is
And
great.
and that has been one of the greatest motivating pieces for me
Yeah.
is to just is to understand and embrace that, to go build a business that makes you $2 million a year and give away half. Then you're gonna be the happiest $1 million income earner on the planet.
Yeah. It is such a great feeling. And I was thinking about this recently. As I get older, I become less focused on myself. and I start
Hmm.
thinking about, like, okay, where is the mark I left? Did I leave a mark?
Right.
Right? You start thinking along these lines, and I was thinking, where in business have I heard this? And
Right.
honestly, I don't think I've heard it.
Yeah.
It may be, I'm not saying it's not out there, but in the circles I've run, it's always about your success, your life, you hitting the numbers, getting the big houses, the vacations,
Yeah.
traveling when you're retired. And I was literally having a conversation with my wife last night or the night before. And I said, everyone measures how much they want in life and so forth. Right. Some people, there's never enough.
Yeah.
And then there are others who are content with hardly anything. And there is a scripture that I remember from the good book that said, don't be anxious for what tomorrow can bring, because each day will have
Right.
its. So why not be content with what you have today, right? The daily bread,
Yeah.
all of those things. We lose sight of that. I mean, I lost sight of that big time. Maybe this is a confessional right now.
Right.
But you get to a point when you say, when do I start helping others?
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
if I'm not helping others, I am missing out on probably one of the top two greatest feelings there is. I think the first one is watching your own kids come into the world,
Yeah.
but not when they're teenagers. But when that's a great feeling. And then giving is this other incredible thing that we weren't even necessarily taught, maybe.
Yeah.
It wasn't taught in my family. I mean, no
Right.
offense to my parents, but they came out of poverty from the depression, and there probably was never enough.
Yeah.
Right? Mindset. It's like, we don't know when that's going to strike again. So you always got to save, and because you never know, maybe that's where that came from.
Right.
But for the ones who are generous and tie their business into philanthropy,
Yeah.
that's a whole different level of emotion that they can get on a daily basis that a
Right.
lot of us, I think, are missing out on.
Yeah. No,
What's
and
your
I think,
thought on that?
you go back to the good book and you reference, he who sows sparingly reaps sparingly,
Yeah, yeah,
and he who sows generously reaps generously, because God loves a cheerful giver.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
we need
it's
to
not
tie that
complicated.
into
We've
business
made it
more.
complicated.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I feel like I need to rewrite or do something different with my book, because that belief, right? I love what you're doing, but
Mhm.
it's like you take all of the people, the wealth that has been generated in business, and find, is there a way that we can help out the community that we're in,
Right.
right? Where you're saying, and sometimes it might be right in front of us. It might
Yeah.
be, there's kids that are impoverished in our own community that could never afford hockey skates,
Yeah.
right? It's like, well, maybe there's something that we could do with that. Maybe, or maybe it's the basketball. Maybe they can't
Right.
afford a $40 basketball that they can take
Right.
to the local concrete outdoor
Bad.
basketball
Yeah.
court and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are things that we probably are thinking we probably couldn't make a big enough impact. So why bother? I
Right.
mean, those are just some thoughts that I have. But you're really, I think you're bringing this whole thing to awareness where you're helping people just say, look, there's a much bigger picture here that we could
Yeah.
tap into that not only helps others, but will give you an incredible euphoric feeling that can last for, your life, right? If
Yeah.
you keep doing that.
Yeah, and we just got with the baseballs that we're sending to Uganda. So we sent them a video and we got a reply back from Coach Paul. And he's the gentleman who's going to be receiving the baseballs for his, and he'd just gotten this message that we're sending them 200 baseballs. Um, and the look on this man's face when you go like, that's all I need,
Mm,
is just to see Coach Paul and the pride that he has to be affiliated with an organization that is pure of heart, sending baseball to children in underprivileged remote communities.
yeah.
And when you think, right, if you think that as an individual you can't make a difference is go dig in on my LinkedIn profile and find that video from Coach Paul, because that is what is making a difference in his life. And it is one of the most beautiful videos. And to go, that's what it's about. It's not the cards and the extra things and all the stuff,
Right.
right? Is
Yeah.
what impact did you leave on others? Robin Sharma has a great line about who will cry when you die.
Mm.
And to go, when you come out, when you were born, you're the one who comes out crying.
Yeah.
But the purpose of life is to understand at the end of your life who will cry when you die.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's completely aligned with what I've been thinking lately.
Yeah,
Personally, it's interesting that you bring that up. The Yeah, because that's the stuff that matters,
right.
right? When no one cares about how much money you had or what kind of vacations you had, and
No,
it's like if I go on a great vacation, my kids don't care.
right.
So if I die with money, what does that do?
Yeah,
We leave it behind. Where does that go?
yeah,
Right? And you said this entitlement is that some people are expecting stuff without nothing.
yeah,
What does it teach when you're given a lot? So my kids have no excuses because I'm not leaving them a lot uh,
yeah,
due to life decisions I made.
yeah.
But the ones that you feel joy by accomplishing your stuff in life that you've worked hard for,
Mm-hmm.
but giving it away to a person that doesn't appreciate it does not do much for that person. And
Yeah,
so when you think about it, it's like, where can I make an impact? What can I do for others? And if you're over 50, I think is a
yeah,
safe number, is that you're now on the downward slope of your mortality,
right.
right? So if you live to be 100, you're
Yeah,
50 in 1 hour, you've got less time now than you had before you.
right.
And that can go at any time, right?
Yeah,
Whether it be a heart, whether it be cancer, whatever, what are you leaving behind? And, maybe we don't care, so forth. Maybe it's all about us, but I think there's something, I think that we're missing out if that's all we're thinking, that it's only about us and our directly related family.
yeah.
Um, that's
I like
just
I
my
like
take
this
on it.
idea. I was chatting with a friend, Luke Askew, a friend of mine, and we were talking about die empty, and that's the thing, is to know that you left it all out on the field, to know that you
Nice.
played
Yeah.
your heart out, to know that you
Yeah.
gave it your all, that you supported others, that there's nothing left inside of you left to give.
Yeah.
Is that we gave it all and we did it with purpose, we did it with integrity, we did it with dignity. But the graveyard being the richest place in the world for ideas, because of
Oh,
the
yeah.
number of people who never pursued the thing to do the bigger thing, because we just kind of went down this humdrum normal life that we're expected,
Yeah.
right? The way that
Yeah.
marketing told us to live and the way that the world taught us to do. And it's only getting worse now when you look at the reels on Facebook with the kids in their Lamborghinis, and like the materialism focus is just disgusting.
Yeah.
And to go, right, Greg McEwen's book Essentialism, and he speaks so much about um the idea that less is more.
Hmm. Yeah. You're familiar with the minimalists.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. I mean, my wife and I are having these conversations periodically. This is really, really good. And I think it's just consider it, right? Open your mind to this, right? When you
yeah,
said we're living the world of what marketers and advertisers, we're living their dream,
right.
right? We are become consumed by the material world, and not we're not looking after our neighbor generally, right? There's exceptions to
Yeah,
the rule, but we're living someone else's dream when we live
yeah,
that life. And
yeah.
so
And it was it's, we took a leap. At 44 years old, I left a 16-year corporate career making significant amount of income. But it was scary to do it. And I speak a lot about this recently, is to not confuse inability with unfamiliarity. Because we
Right.
have this idea, you could be stuck, when the number of people who will be watching this going, well, I'm stuck in that same role. I'm stuck in this, the golden handshake environment where I'm getting paid, we have a lifestyle that, we could never replace, because I have to stay in my corporate job, and I don't have the ability to branch out on my own and to go and to do something different. But it is not inability, it's merely unfamiliarity.
Yeah.
And I did this with the Success Bible. I wrote that book in one day. And it was Friday morning I came up with the idea, and by Saturday morning at 3 a.m, it was live on Amazon.
Love
The
it.
Success Bible has now become a workshop that I teach. And the whole idea behind the book was that the reason that most people don't write a book is they go, well, what do I do once I have a manuscript? How do I edit? How do I format? How do I do cover design? All of these things. And to most people, that's justification enough to not try.
Yeah.
But it's not hard to do that part. That part takes less than 24 hours. I have proven that with this book. And the funny part about, so the Success Bible is actually only one page, and it's 5 rules. And
One page of text.
One page of text. It is the 5 steps to success.
Okay.
Which are: find out what you actually want, find out what you need to do to achieve it, pursue it relentlessly, set a new target, and then repeat. And then it's followed by 186 blank pages, because there's nothing else to know. Everything you need to know about being successful is encapsulated. If you've answered those 5 questions, you've followed those 5 steps, success will come to you. So, but the idea was to go, it was not inability that kept me from writing my first book. It was unfamiliarity.
Yeah.
And, if you're on the cusp of that, to go, in that ingrained driven sales culture, if you're talking about your value proposition and presenting it with things that can be answered with, so what, who cares, or I should hope so, then just reach out. I'm always happy to have conversations just to help people make that leap, because it was scary for me to do. But if the people who did it are not brave and vulnerable enough to speak honestly about it, now it's been 3 years. It took us 3 years. Only recently did we get above 0. It took time to grow and develop. And, we've started 3 companies in the last 3 years, which has been incredible. Doing the TEDx has been great. Doing the 3 books has been incredible. But it takes time, but it takes the courage.
Yeah.
Right? It takes the courage is what makes you leap. The resilience is what makes you get up after you fall. And the resilience truly is more important than the courage. The courage exists for a moment. Resilience is what continues to carry you through. But that's a whole nother live we can do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm nodding with excitement, but this has been great. And I love the approach that you're helping businesses with, is that it works out for everybody's benefit. So for people who want to find more of Derek Strokon, where can they find you, sir?
Yeah, easiest would be just derekstrokon.com. That will direct you to me, or follow me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find, and always happy to engage. But Harry, honestly, thank you so much for making the time to have me on the show. It's been a blast.
I don't know if anyone else benefited from this one. I know I did.
Okay. Well, good. If we touch one life, then that's all that matters.
Yeah, this life has been touched. I mean, so much good came from this. So super. Thank you, Derek.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Sales Made Easy. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. Also, you're invited to join the Facebook group Sales Training Selling with Dignity. Serve first, the selling will follow.